Okay, so welcome everybody. Some of you are regulars, and we're really pleased to see you and have your support. Some people are new, that's great. This will be useful to you. And then some people have just been invisible, and we're going to go and kick their tiles a bit. So, right, this is all about getting to net zero, as you know. Oh, truly change slides. There are several routes to decarbonisation of hospitals' heat. We don't have to decide right now. You've got geothermal ways of doing it. There's the procurement, which is struggling with the new procurement rules, but it is moving. There's hydrogen, or I say green fuels, because there's biomethane in some parts of the country. Then there's green district energy, and basically hydrogen and geothermal goes with those, really. So you're probably going to find, whichever way you route, that district energy comes into the equation somehow or other. And they're good old heat pumps. Anyway, today we talk mostly about the hydrogen route and about getting yourself into the queue for getting hydrogen. It doesn't mean you have to take it. You don't have to commit now. But if you don't give the information now, then we're not giving David and Martin the help they need to get us on the list with government who are going to fund this thing. So they won't give them enough money, and your hospital may then take a long time to get hydrogen available to it. And hydrogen is the cheapest way to get to net zero, whatever you think of hydrogen and all the rest of it. And whilst you might have a better way to get to net zero, hydrogen is going to be the cheapest for just about everybody. So it's an option you really want to keep there. Hydrogen will be subsidised. It will meet the national carbon standard for hydrogen, and so on. So you'd be wise to be with us. And you're all here, so you all know that. We've been working with Martin and David for quite some time. It must be a year now. And and a long time ago, we came up with this list of the hospitals and the pipeline that have been superimposed. David and his team did that for us. The green pipe and the red pipe, he'll explain that to us in a minute. Hospitals are the little crosses. And if we get ourselves on the list and we give them the data sharing agreement, get ourselves there, then they're going to put us on the list. And then the chances are that you're going to be offered a hydrogen within a time period. And that'd be very good. And those are the hospitals listed there. You can all see yourself there. Whiston and Warrington look good prospects. The Island site is the Manchester-Oxford Road site there, who haven't responded, so they're one for chasing, but they're there, and the rest of them, you know where they are. Royal Albert's up Wigan, you know the boys. The slide's gone away again. So we'll pass over to David, who's standing in for Martin. Martin happily left David carrying the can. So David, you're in the hot seat. Tell me when you want me to change slides.
Brilliant. Thanks, Clive. Yeah, as Clive mentioned, I'm standing in for Martin Shannon. He does pass on his apologies, but yeah, like he's kind of dropped me in it today. But apologies, I'll try my best. But yeah, my name's Dave Briggs. So I'm a commercial manager within Cadent. Just a little bit about me. I've been with Cadent just over 20 years. Currently responsible for managing a number of commercial contracts across our networks. If you're not aware, Cadent, we're the largest gas distribution company in the UK. We operate in West Midlands, North West, East Midlands, East Anglia and North London. We bring gas to 11 million homes and businesses. We've got circa 82,000 miles of gas pipeline, and we also manage the National Gas Emergency Service on behalf of the whole gas industry. So that's the 800 111 999 number. Next slide, Clive. So what's changed? So new appointments, as you know, changes in government. So the Conservatives are out, Labour are now in power. So we were slightly nervous going back, 4 or 5 weeks ago. But what does that mean for us? Not a lot, really. So it's become clear that the focus on decarbonisation remains the same. It does mean that we are busy behind the scenes bringing the Labour government up to speed on progress and our future plans. We've already met with Sarah Jones. She's had a big tour of Hynet and the Hynet project, and she was very impressed with what she had seen. We've also got Chris Stark leading a group of civil servants. Well, he's leading a group of civil servants to ensure the hydrogen program is delivered, not just for Hynet, but for the whole of the UK. So it's clear that sort of regardless of whoever is in power, regardless of whoever is in power, the focus on decarbonisation remains the same, which it's great. It's great for Cadent, it's great for the UK, it's great for everyone, really. Next slide, please. So the Northwest today, the Northwest, it's got all the ingredients for a thriving hydrogen economy. We've been working on the Hynet project now. It's going back close to 10 years when we first started looking at the Hynet project. We've got stakeholders who have all committed to decarbonise. We've got the strong industrial heritage within the Northwest region with high energy demand. There's existing hydrogen development projects within the Northwest. There's geology to support carbon capture, so old oil fields offshore. There's geology to support hydrogen storage, such as salt caverns. There's excellent transport links, and there's high potential for renewable energy generation. Just move it on slightly, Clive, so we get that's it. And the Northwest itself, it's got a higher energy demand than the national average within the UK. So again, things like the lime industry in the region consumes over 42% of the sector's UK total. There's the textile, the leather, the clothing, the footwear industries, the paper, the printing, vehicle manufacturing. There's a whole heap of large industrial users within the Northwest, which makes it perfect for Hynet to succeed, really. Clive, next slide, please. So the gas network, it plays a pivotal role in supporting industry and commerce in the Northwest. So today, industries that require hydrogen, they employ in total over 120,000 people in the region. It contributes to over 7 billion in the regional gross value added. But industry, so the key industry, industries and ourselves, we must collaborate with all the academic and training institutions to address the future energy transition skills gap in the Northwest. We need to give the local people access to new opportunities, and we are doing that. So we're in touch with all we're all working with the universities in the area, as well as all the other industries. And the gas industry direct, we can contribute 1.8 billion to the local economy, which is potentially at risk if the energy transition isn't carefully managed. And hydrogen enables this transition. In terms of Hynet, it's world leading. It will bring jobs and security to the region, and as well as sort of an added focus on the area itself from everyone watching to see how it plays out. Next slide, Clive. So the opportunity. So what is it? So it's building on the Northwest strengths to unlock future potential and lead in the hydrogen space. The hydrogen economy in the Northwest is already in development. As I mentioned, it's something that we've been working on now for getting close to 10 years from when it was first sort of discussed. Hynet, it's the UK's leading track 1 carbon capture storage cluster. Comprises of carbon capture as well as hydrogen production, distribution and storage. It's got 18% of the UK's funded low carbon hydrogen production projects in the region. The Hynet pipeline itself is the UK's first, or it's planned to be the UK's first 100% hydrogen pipeline, linking supply and demand within the Northwest. There's beneficial geography, offshore carbon and storage and salt caverns as mentioned. It's the industries and the stakeholders, they're all committed to decarbonisation. We'll come on to those later on, but we know that if we could supply hydrogen today, it would be used. There's a huge demand in the Northwest. And also there's a whole raft of experienced personnel from the gas industry in the Northwest, and they're ready to move into low carbon jobs. And all this is all underpinned by the National Gas's transmission. They're doing a project called Project Union, and that's planning to connect the North. They're planning to do a hydrogen pipeline connecting up all these different clusters throughout the UK. As I say, Hynet is the number one. Hynet's the sort of the front runner, if you like, but there is a number of others throughout the UK, and Project Union is the plan to connect all these together to give a 100% high pressure network for the whole of the UK. Next slide, Clive. So by 2025, we see the first green hydrogen production sites beginning to produce hydrogen. We see hydrogen production plant 1, which we call HPP1, blue hydrogen is under construction. Hynet's pipeline supported under the hydrogen business model and in its final planning stages. We see the biomethane production reaching 0.5 terawatt hours, and industries have started to transition to hydrogen, enabling, early enabler for hydrogen for transport, for example. So that's where we see for 2025, which is very, very close. It's next year. Next slide, Clive. So moving on to 2030. So where we see we see HPPP1 up and running, HPP2 in operation. So this is the one that you would be most interested in, which is the phase 2. Hydrogen production capacity growing with the government support. Biomethane production capacity would double to 1 terawatt hours and would continue to feed into the existing natural gas grid. Hydrogen infrastructure is encouraging industries to switch to hydrogen, and we anticipate roughly 27 to 30% industry switch to hydrogen. And the Hynet pipeline phases 1 and 2, along with storage in the Cheshire salt caverns, have all been deployed. And we would be anticipating that users would begin to request hydrogen connections in a similar manner to how you would request a normal gas connection today. So very much up and running, and by 2030, we're anticipating it to be well underway. Next slide, Clive. So as you can see from the schematic there, so we will have underground pipeline networks to transport CO2 to permanent storage. We will have facilities to capture CO2 emissions. We will have underground hydrogen storage, which can be called upon instantly. We will have 100% hydrogen pipeline to connect production, storage, and the end users. Low carbon hydrogen production plants, and all of this will be within the northwest Hynet region. And you can see from the map sort of the areas we're talking about there. So Manchester, Liverpool, up towards Preston and North Wales. Next slide, Clive. So what you see here, and you just saw this briefly on Clive's map with your hospital. So what you see there is the green pipeline is phase 1. So that's kind of the backbone, if you like, of the Hynet, and the red pipelines is the phase 2, which is sort of branching out from the phase 1, branching out further north, south, east and west. So the phase 1, we're looking to be delivered by 28, 29. Phase 2 by 2030 will begin to connect to the wider Hynet region and the wider northwest region, and that's what will enable users to connect into the hydrogen system, as I mentioned, similar to how you would request a normal gas connection today. And just to pull some figures out there, you've got the design and operating pressure. So looking at 44.5 bar for the initial phase, going up to 75 bar for the future phase. But the actual infrastructure has been designed, the design pressures for it to run at 80 bar. So there's a lot of scope to increase pressures and stuff. But an important point to note out as well, that it will all be odorized in exactly the same way as natural gas is today. So you have the same, it will smell the same as natural gas, and it will all meet the government's low carbon energy requirements. So any hydrogen that is produced will meet the government standard, hydrogen standard. Next slide, Clive. So there's a few, what you see there is some people in the northwest who have already committed to the Hynet and usage. So just to call a few names out there, likes of Kellogg's, Jaguar Land Rover, Kraft Heinz, SR. These are huge companies, and we've been working with these companies for a number of years to develop the project, capture industry requirements. As I said, these are all very, very large, high users and well-known organisations that have all committed to use hydrogen and are all part of the sort of the Hynet family, if you like. Next slide, Clive. So, as I mentioned, we've been working with these for a number of years. We have regular visits and calls with all these companies, and they've all been issued with a data book, and within this book it contains the description of their plant. It includes their hydrogen requirements. So this isn't something that we've produced. We've produced it collectively. We've worked together to get this information. It includes site maps and potential connection points within their businesses, forecasted demand profiles, flow rates. There's joint schedules for commissioning, and AOP. So anything else that may be of interest, such as peak demands, production timelines. All this data will also feed into a transportation and business model applications and cost-based analysis, and all the data is secure and confidential, and it's based on the new information sharing agreement between the parties. So everything is secure, and without this information, we would really struggle we would have struggled to scope the sort of the requirements for Hynet. So these data books are sort of invaluable to us and to the users. Next slide, Clive. So as I briefly just mentioned, the cost benefit analysis. So we've reached out to a company called Frontier Economics. We've asked them to compile a completely independent review of Hynet, but not just Hynet, but also the wider hydrogen projects, and carry out some cost-based analysis on the projects. And this will help support the projects going forward, will aid in highlighting its potential benefits and costs, not just for Hynet, but for the use of hydrogen in general. And all this is in conjunction with Ofgem and DESNZ as well. And we move on, Clive. So briefly mentioned, and I think you may have all seen it, but yeah, we've got a new information sharing agreement. So this will replace any existing NDAs or MOUs we currently have in place. I don't think we have any with you guys. But if you do, it's this information sharing agreement is what we're using going forward. If you need a copy, reach out to Clive, who can put you in the right direction. And just to sort of reiterate that this agreement, it should give and hopefully give confidence that any information shared both by us and yourselves, it's confidential, but it also ensures that everyone's got fair access to the emerging hydrogen market, and it will be included in the Hynet project going forward. And Clive, I think that is it.
It is lovely picture of Martin
sort of
there.
Short whistle-stop tour, but yeah, apologies for Martin not being able to, but hopefully I've given you enough information there. Hopefully.
So if you've understood correctly, it's no different for David's business to ours. They've got to do business cases and cost-based analysis, and all that stuff's going on. And part of that is the evidence about the users, and they'll be included in the business case, and those that aren't won't be. So that's why we're filling in the forms. So if you fill in the Cadent forms, you've got a lottery ticket. You may choose or may not choose to take it, but it's there. There's no commitment. It's just giving information and helping everybody in the business case and all the rest of it. Not much to do, though some of the questions are a bit obscure for hospitals. But give it to David and to Martin. It'll go in their plans, and they will try and include it, allowing for your hospital in the plans. And later on, they'll come to you for more and more detail, and you can start with in or out. But if you want hydrogen and you want it as early as you can get it, and that's your route to net zero, then you need to be on the list. Otherwise, you could well find that you've got to wait well into the next decade or beyond until hydrogen gets to you naturally. So you've got to do it. Our role, NH Power, the little team of volunteers I've got, our only role is to try and make this happen. We're not involved. It's between you and Cadent. We're just trying to grease the wheels or the gears or whatever it is one greases to try and make these things happen. But we will help you with data forms. That bottom line's now wrong. There won't be a repeat session. We've done the repeat session, and this is it. And you've either on it or been on one of the other ones, or you have to manage with a recording, which I'll put on the website. So the forms are designed to cover multiple uses, and NHS hospitals don't fit in very easily. But be very helpful on this one if you could put your meter point, your gas meter point, the name of the hospital, the owner, the postcode. That top line is quite important. And then below it, you can put what your hydrogen is, and I would just start with your predicted gas usage and put that down there in kilowatt hours, and you'll be there. If you were sophisticated enough to think you might use a hydrogen blend, you can put that information there. But the NHS generally is looking to swap to 100% hydrogen. Some of them are going to have mixing facilities on CHP plant. but that won't particularly affect Cadent. It might affect your site. So if you've got CHP and you want to keep CHP, hydrogen's the only way to do it and to stay green. We're going to run CHPs in green manner as best we can, but to be honest, burning gas is not net zero, so it's got to be a problem. So if you can put in the amount and it'll be 100%, and you can put your annual demand in, if any of these questions flummox you, we can put them in. We even have, obviously, the central data, but you might have better data than we have, especially as your site's going to shrink or grow. Okay, there's another one about the meter point. We've covered the meter point. The pressure, don't worry about the pressure. You're going to get the pressure you get at. The temperature, don't worry about any of that. It'll come to you via a flange and a meter, much like your gas does. By my thinking, it'll be a flange probably near where your existing gas meter flange is. So you'll need a bit of space there because you'll have gas and hydrogen for a while, and then eventually gas will go. And you don't need to worry about the mole content. You don't need to worry about impurities. Note that they're going to put smell in the hydrogen. Hydrogen doesn't smell, but if you put methyl mercaptolate in it, then it smells like gas. And that's what they're going to do so that you can detect a leak. And then you can put details of your resilience plan beneath it if you wish, but hospitals have tons of resilience. And you can just say we have N+1 and we have standby supplies. Cadent are happy as long as you're happy that you know that hydrogen will initially be interruptible, and so you need to backup energy. And there's no hospital that would go without backup energy. So that's not going to happen. And then there is a place where you can put your conversion to hydrogen in. I wouldn't bother with that because firstly, we've got to get to the stage where we can justify in our own business case that we want to spend money. And the point we do that for each hospital, we'll put the route to getting the hydrogen conversion in place, and whether you need another gas train on your CHP or a new CHP or no CHP and all the rest of it will be dealt with by the NHS net zero plan. So we don't need to tell David and Martin much about it other than we have one and we will be ready when they're ready. So that's the important thing. There are various footnotes, some which I've covered. Number one, where we're a hospital, we're not power, industrial, transportation. What's our primary application? Well, it's probably heating, but you may also have a CHP or something else. If you want to blend, that's note 3, but you're probably not going to blend. You can say whether your gas consumption relatively constant or fluctuate. Well, we know hospitals are pretty darn steady, a bit more in winter and less on a weekend and more in the week, but I don't think we need to go into too much detail with good base loads. You don't need to worry about the hydrogen specification unless you're going to put a fuel cell on site, in which case you need purer hydrogen than David's going to give you, so you'll need some kind of extra thing to deal with impurities. The reduction of CO2 emissions, you can feed those across. We've done those in the model. You can tell them what the impact is if you want. And where you are in your design, well, we're at SOC stage, so you can put that in if you want. And then the most important thing, because I mean, to be honest, we and Vanessa and I and the rest of us could fill in those if we really had to. If you're really struggling, we could do that. But you really need to sign the agreement, which basically means putting your information in all these yellow blocks. So it's between Cadent Gas and whatever, Liverpool Hospital, Liverpool University, NHS Trust, whatever it is, registered in Wales, under company number. Well, you have a number. If you don't know what it is, I know what it is. Your registered office is where your trust HQ is. Here after hospital, if you like. It's all just basic information I get. The most important thing is that you fill it in and you sign it, and somebody knows that it's been signed by the appropriate person. So there's that. But consideration by the trust to Cadent of £1. Don't worry about the £1. Cadent don't want the £1, and if they do, I'm happy to give them the £1. It's just to make it a document. A document isn't a document unless it's got a consideration in it, and that's £1. It's just a legal nicety going back to the Middle Ages. And then there's a section there to put details of your work. Well, you can if you want, but I wouldn't bother. We will get the NHS, between you and I and everybody else, we'll get there in time if you decide to move forward with hydrogen. So don't get too swept up with some of the details of it. All David needs to know is you're there, you're interested what your load is, what your meter point is, so you can just make sure he's got the right client because he's got all your data on his database, and just make sure that we're all talking about the same thing. There we are. So that's the slides. I'm going to attempt to stop sharing that if I can find the right place to look. So now we're into questions zone. I haven't noticed anything come up on the thing. Liverpool, I speak to you collectively, Raquel and so on. Have you got any questions? You're on with your forms. Is there anything bothering you or that you need help with? You might have to unmute yourself. I can't see whether anybody's talking. It doesn't sound like that there's an issue. Okay. Who else? John, you got any questions?
Yeah, I was just interested because, as you can see from my title, I'm from Bridgewater Community Health Care Trust, and the reference is all to hospital sites, and the diagram shows hospital sites. Is that on basis of just because they're there, or is it on size? You know, we have a number of properties adjacent to Warrington Hospital within the Warrington area that are currently on gas. We still got the decarbonisation journey to go through as well. Are you interested in smaller health centre type properties, or is this just for the big hospitals at the moment?
Well, David can give you details in a second, but initially it's quite big pipes with quite high pressure. So if Warrington go for it, and your sites are close to Warrington, then you've got a chance to get it, and we should put you on the list. But it does mean we've got to persuade Warrington, who I think are invisible at the moment, to get off their backsides and fill in their form.
Yeah, and my other point is we are currently engaging with Warrington on what the NHS are calling an integration exercise. I am involved in that project, meeting with my opposite number at Warrington Hospital, so I will certainly raise it. I'm due to see them tomorrow morning.
You see, they've got CHP. They need it. They've got it. It's close to them. It's perfect for them. They need to get off their butts and fill it in. And I've prodded them umpteen times, so I'm going to start shouting if they don't fill it in quickly. So if you would be nice, do the nice person stuff, nice cop, and go and prod them and say, look, if they don't fill it in, it means you're going to suffer as well. And they're going to suffer because they're going to have to explain to their board why they need a great big geothermal hole or a district thing, or why they're going to wait till after the 2032 target if they don't get off their butts and put a vote in for getting hydrogen. So you could do that. And then David will tell you a bit about spreading it out in a minute.
Okay.
They're not going to go running it down the roads and everywhere at the moment. You might find that the ones over the road get dealt with pretty smartly, and we might, between us, work out how we pipe it to you. And the ones further away might have to wait a little bit longer, but at least it'll be there and it'll be close and we can get the bloody thing sorted. Whereas if they don't sign up, then yours won't get included and they won't get included, and you'll just have to wait till it comes. David, can you add any more to that?
No, pretty much exactly that, Clive. So it's all been scoped out based on size at the minute. So usage. So obviously we're picking up the high users first, the high usage areas first, to make it sort of viable in the first instance. So it would be the large hospitals. If you're right next door to sort of a large one of these large hospitals, there's no reason why you couldn't, in essence, piggyback off the back of that. But very much on the large hospitals at first, but when I mentioned around 2030 onwards, where you can connect via a normal sort of the same way you would connect to a normal gas connection, that is where we see the smaller places just submitting a standard gas connection, but for hydrogen, a standard hydrogen connection. But that would be later on, so 2030 onwards.
Okay. Can I also ask as well? So go on, Clive.
Sorry. Well, you need to be near a node. So if there's no node near you, then it's going to take longer. So you want to be closer to 2030. You need to be near a node and near a hospital. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to ask within the Warrington locality, and again linked to my organisation, we have a number of community health partnership buildings, not quite hospital size, but certainly bigger than health centres. I was just wondering, in terms of your selected audience, Clive, have you reached out to CHP or NHS Property Services? Because I say we have a number of those certainly CHP, a number of quite big buildings within the Warrington locality close to the hospital.
No, what I did was it's my fault. What we did is we took the biggest hospitals and started with those. So if you feel you could get some of the others to join the party, then chuck them in. But just remember, they will go in the queue behind the closest available node. So long as we got Warrington Hospital signed up, if they're close to that or close to Preston or close to Aintree or any of those sites, then they will be sooner than they would otherwise be, if long as those hospitals put their stuff in. You know, it's like just no different in catering to the NHS. You need a business case, you need permissions, you need project management, you need finance, you need to dig up the road, you need permits, you know, it's all that same stuff. And it will happen as fast as people can make it, but that's the way it is.
Okay.
So you could help me awfully by getting Warrington off their butts. You really could.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do my best to do that. But thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's very
Thanks,
good.
David.
Philip, we were talking before when you came on, you take energy via a pipe to NG. So really we could do with your information, but we could do with the Aintree site registering and putting their data in. I think Raquel said that you were going to include Aintree in your thing, were you, Raquel?
Yeah, that's right. Aintree is going to be included.
Have you included Philip's load? The silence. So will you make sure that you've included the entire NG load, and that will include Philip as well?
Yeah.
Then you can decide whether you take your own hydrogen direct and have your own boilers, Philip, or whether you stay on the central system. But there is CHP on the central system, and if Raquel puts it in, she can get hydrogen, she can keep her CHP, possibly think about putting more in. It's the only way to have CHP, which generates lots of money, subsidised hydrogen, so it's the same price as gas will be at the time, and you can carry on with those benefits, or you can take your own hydrogen. But you're struggling if Aintree don't do it. You know, you'll be in the queue just like John will be.
Of course.
No,
Okay.
well, when considering Aintree, we normally do for the entire site, for the entire campus, and that would include yourself as well.
Clatterbridge and Philip's site then as well. So it'll include both of them.
Sorry, out of interest, have Clatterbridge been on?
We have had a chat with Clatterbridge, yes, we have.
Yeah, so they're interested as well.
Oh, well, they ought to be, because the trouble is it's statutory getting to net zero.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you can put yourself in for PSDS and cover your site with heat pumps, and that's perfectly acceptable. But
I'll give them a gentle nudge as well.
Yeah, because they can support Raquel, make sure that all the data's there. But it sounds like Raquel's looking after you. But you know, teamwork.
Yeah, there we go. In terms of the Clatterbridge site, we do have two sites, one at the Royal site and another one at Aintree. Both of them will be considered on our load because at the moment we are supplying them. So, but I will put a note on the application form for that, and we will let the Clatterbridge know as well in terms of what we are doing.
Fantastic. Okay.
Thanks, Raquel.
Okay. Well, it's the way we get there is by working together, because otherwise we ain't going to do it. Okay. Are there any other questions, or any? You don't always get David every day of the week, so once we let him go, he's gone. Does anybody want to know anything else? No, we're good. Okay. Well, I will call it quits, and thank you for coming, and thank David for stepping into the breach for Martin, so thank you for that, David. And we're going to chase down the ones that we haven't got. Vanessa's making lists, and we'll chase them all down. Okay, can you let me know who you're contacting at Warrington? Okay, Vanessa, will you dig out the names you got for Warrington and just drop the list down to John?
There's a couple of people left recently, Clive. That's why.
Yeah,
so
we've struggled to stay up to date, and you probably find we included in the Hynet group East Kent hospitals. Don't ask me how, but somehow somebody moved, and we were sending invites to East Kent Hospital, which is about as close to Hynet as Aberdeen is. So there's not much bloody use. So there you are. But we're trying, but it's not easy. Okay, well, thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thank you
Look
very
Brilliant.
much.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you, Raquel.
Thanks.